Hey guys, what's going on? Druzy here, back again with another South Park Phone Destroyer video and another beginner's guide here on the channel. As it's been a while since I've done one of these, I've been a little lazy in continuing this series, and being that recently the adventure theme went to the actual in-game news, thanks to courtesy to Red Links for allowing me to have that on the news feed, my second video overall on that, which is kind of cool. But because of that, people have really been asking me to continue this series, which I have been, again, procrastinating to do. So here it is, the mystical theme for 2021. And there has been a few changes that have been made to some of this. But of course, the beginner's guide will stay the same as it has with the other two themes we've talked about, adventure and sci-fi. If you want to look at those videos, I will put in a link in the description to the playlist for all the beginner's guide type videos I have, which include both those videos as well. So as always, we will start with what I think the top 12 cards are for the mystical theme in order. We'll also go over some of the best, what I think are the best theme combos for this theme overall, and give you guys some potential deck suggestions that I think work pretty darn well with this theme. So there we go. We're going to start obviously with the best cards that I think in the theme, and here they are for you guys on screen as far as what I think the best cards in the theme is. Obviously, to me and to many people, because of his insane value with his war cry, I think Pope Timmy realistically is actually number one. Now, I think a lot of people would argue with me and say, Drew, it's got to be Dar. Yes and no. If you get Pope Timmy to work, the amount of energy return that you get is better than any other card in this game. Period. End of story. Pope Timmy has the potential to be insane. You could use Pope Timmy to potentially bring back Call Girl, who could bring another 5 energy cost, which would be a huge reverse energy swing in your favor. It's absolutely insane, the potential that Pope Timmy has. And that's just one example. There are many examples, and Pope Timmy oftentimes, I mean, you could even bring back Satan maybe to cancel again, or Leanne to potentially make more unit. I mean, the possibilities are endless. That is one thing that why a lot of people are screaming for Pope Timmy to return to 7 energy cost. Maybe that will happen. Maybe Renlinks will do that. Obviously, they haven't seemed to be willing to do that recently, but hopefully that happens at some point. Pope Timmy does need some sort of nerf. Either whether it's to his war cry directly or to his energy cost, something to make him not as ridiculously strong. To me, Dar is the second best card in this theme. Many, again, will argue that say she's the best. I think she's still very, very, very good. Don't get me wrong, her war cry, again, is also insane. Revives an ally of 5 cost or less with no self-revive and respawns the card. She still has insane value, both her and Pope Timmy, but to me, Timmy's a little bit better. Dar has been kind of brought down nerf-wise as far as her stats are concerned, her baseline stats, but her ability, her war cry, is still the coup de grace of her whole kit and the whole value that she really provides. To me, her baseline stats could literally be 0 for damage and health, and she'd still be a really good card, even at 4 energy. I have Unholy Combustion as third. This one might surprise a lot of people. Unholy Combustion, to me, is the best direct cancel card in the game. The main reason for that is because it also will do damage to the surrounding enemies and or direct damage to the new kid directly. So if you have a new kid at a low amount of health and you have Unholy Combustion at the right enough level, you can do some new kid direct damage. You don't even have to hit another unit around it. A misconception that a lot of people often have is that they think Unholy Combustion has to hit a unit near new kid to do the new kid damage. That is untrue. It can directly hit new kid and do that direct damage. So that is a tip for you in the future in any variety that you may or may not use this card. So I think Unholy Combustion is the best overall cancel. I mean, at one point it was definitely Cock Magic, but to me it's now Unholy Combustion is the best direct cancel. And some would argue now maybe Inuit Kenny. If you have Inuit Kenny to a low level, I would say yes, but because you know, Unholy Combustion, it's a spell, it doesn't cost resources to upgrade, only gold, I think it's a little bit better. Powerbind, again, another spell. But Powerbind's value in this meta right now is insane. It is pretty much a must-have for anyone running Mystical. I don't even care what level of arena you're in, even if you're a low level, this is a almost must-have card. And the main reason for that, of course, is the value. Again, there are a lot of very strong charge cards in this game, and this will remove that temporarily for 40 seconds. I mean, 40 seconds is still a long time in a match. Oftentimes you can get Powerbind back again to do it a second time very quickly, and you can rotate back to it to where you can almost, the second it goes away, you can have it again. So Powerbind is insane in that regard. It was once 1 energy cost a long time ago. Only OGs will remember that. It did get bumped up to 2 energy. It was nerfed heavily on its aura, or area that it affects, and then they brought the power range back a little bit better, and Powerbind has definitely resurged back into the meta. For obvious reasons, it's still very, very strong. Zen Cartman, arguably one of, if not the best tank in the game right now, hands down in this game. And people will be like, Druzy, why do you say that? He doesn't do any damage. Tanks aren't designed to do damage. Yes, some tanks can do damage. Man-Bear Pig, Grand Wizard Cartman, even Slave, like other cards that are buffed by damage output by something like Master Ninju, who of course is in this theme, as well as other options to boost damage. But Zen Cartman doesn't need damage. His whole point and focus is to just absorb a bunch of damage. Plus, a lot of people sometimes will direct cancel Zen Cartman because you need to sometimes to get his annoyance off the screen. But then that's a huge negative trade for you if you have to go to stoop to that levels to kill him, which is then a positive for you. And then again, he's low energy cost, 3 energy, so you could just cycle back to him probably relatively quickly, because a lot of this theme has some varied potential for very cheap cycle potential, which just makes him that much more annoying and ridiculous. So Zen Cartman, definitely to me, probably the strongest tank in the game. In a meta where tanks really aren't that effective anymore, but Zen still holds his own. Some would argue with Dusa here at 6, but Dusa, to me, is one of, if not the best range card in the entire game. She's in everyone that has her unlocked. Pretty much everyone that runs Mystical, especially in high ladder, 8k and above, even 7, even Legendary period, pretty much all run Medusa Bebe. For obvious reasons, she has insane health. I mean, 1130 at level max 4. Great damage output, and her ability, which when she kills a unit they turn into a snake, is basically a transformation. So the positive of that is it can stop something like Mysterion. If you kill Mysterion with Medusa Bebe, it transforms Mysterion, then Mysterion's off the field. Even if a Leanne is coming at you, who again, when she dies with her Death Wish, would turn into, would morph people into chicken units, you can cancel that. It cancels any negative Death Wish effect, or a Death Wish altogether if Medusa kills that unit. So there's a lot of upside. It would stop Cyborg Kenny, it would stop Inuit Kenny, it would stop a variety of different ones. So those are just some examples, but this is why Medusa to me is so good in this current meta. Ninju, he's insane. His Warcry, you just give a bunch of damage out to all the allied units on the field. Obviously at level 4 it's 107. I believe it even stays at 10. I think it goes only up to 121 if my memory serves when he goes to level 5. So it's not a huge bump, but it's a big bump from 3 to 4. It goes from, I think, 81 at 3 to 107 at level 4. So that's a pretty decent swing. It could be slightly off with the attack boost numbers, and I'm sure people in chat will let you guys know the exact numbers. But from 3 to 4, there is a nice bump to his attack boost, as well as his health scaling, again, is pretty good. 902, not to Medusa Baby levels, but close enough, and pretty decent damage output as well. Energy Staff has insane value for the reason of it just gives you more energy. A lot of the focus of Mystical are 2 main things: energy, restoration, and healing. Those are the 2 main things that this theme really kind of gives you. And even with something like Pope Timmy and Dar, you're still getting positive energy return by playing those cards, because they are basically bringing units back onto the field or reviving units back to give you a positive energy trade. The main focus of this theme is to provide a positive energy transaction for you personally, not the opponent, obviously. So that's one of the main reasons why this theme is so damn strong, because it's the best support theme and the best theme in the game, period. I mean, it has been for a long time, it continues to remain that way, and until drastic changes are made, I don't think it's ever going to go away. And but it can be dealt with. It's not like Mystical is so ridiculously strong that it's completely uncounterable. That is not true. But it can take some finesse and getting used to kind of being able to go against it. But Energy Staff gives you insane trade potential, so it's definitely one of the top cards. Hermes Kenny, some people may not be the best assassin in this theme anymore, and to me, I still think he is, even more so over the next card, who recently got a huge buff. He doesn't do the most damage and have the most health of all the assassins currently in this theme, but his Death Wish is really nice. It gives you that double energy gain, so paired with Energy Staff and Hermes Kenny, you can get insane energy return and double, energy value, especially if you're under 1 minute. You get the double energy return into the game defaultly. Plus, you could potentially have energy staff. Plus, have Hermes Kenny. You could have so much energy you don't even know what to do with all of it, which, of course, you know, is just real, you know, first world problems, right? Jew Scout Ike or Scout Ike received a ginormous buff in this most recent patch changes for the game, and because of that, Scout Ike is really good now, guys. He's actually pretty good. Pretty much anyone running Mystical now, almost all of them are running Scout Ike. Not everybody, but most people. I have even, when I run Mystical now, I've been running more Scout Ike for obvious reasons. I mean, look at that health and damage. He's a common card, guys. Easy to level, and now he has been reworked as far as his ability. It's now every time he hits an enemy, he gains some energy for them. I think it's 1/3 of a bar each time he hits, and his range on his actual basic attack, 0.7, for an assassin is actually very good. Better than all the other assassins in this theme. I think it's on par with Bandita Sally from Adventure, who also has good range for an assassin. I mean, that's obviously not range potential, but for a ranged assassin to have a little bit of extra wiggle room in between you and them hitting, it means you could potentially hit them first and get your insane potential damage of 308 out earlier than they would. And then you got Choir Boy Butters, who is still very good. I mean, he's not as good as he once was. He's one of the slower attack speed butters in the game, but he is very cheap cost of 2 energy. Still gives you a Death Wish. It gives you a little bit of extra energy. I think it's 1/8 or 1/16 of a bar every time he dies. But again, he's low cost, good damage potential, and it's just, you know, you can just cycle between those 3 assassins and get potentially a bunch of energy back, which is why all 3 of them are so good. And last but not least, 12th to me is Cupid Carmen. I think Cupid Carmen's been seeing a big resurgence in lower arenas. Mostly, I've seen him a lot more in bronze and silver because as a flying, basically assassin unit, he does good damage. He's hard to kind of take out. A lot of people in earlier ladder don't play a lot of range units or play only 1, maybe 2. So you can really sneak in a Cupid Carmen. And paired again with his other stats, it could be a really nice potential for you. I've really seen, since I've been playing my Adventure Locked account, a ton more Cupid Cartman. And he's one of my favorite cards in the game. He's my first level 6 rare that I ever had, I believe. Yes, he is my first level 6 rare, and as you can see, I'm over halfway to get him to level 7. I'd love to do that someday, even though his stats don't go up immensely. Love Cupid Cartman. I'm glad that people are finally realizing how good he really can be. But I mean, there's other good cards in this theme, guys. Those aren't the only ones. Jesus has been seeing a nice resurgence in the game to where he's actually doing really well. I think Youth Pastor Craig is undervalued if you're running anything that has high energy cost or a lot of big tanks. Youth Pastor Craig's really good about helping you deal with that. I mean, you could argue for regeneration. Angel Wendy got a nice buff to her healing. She's actually not bad now. Purify's gotten some reworks. It's in a little bit better of a spot. This card's trash. Don't use it. I mean, Friar Jimmy's not a good card. This is the worst Dougie. Don't use it. And it's a Dougie, so don't use it. Don't use it. Those are the other reasons not to use it. I love him, Tweak. He's one of my favorite cards in the game. He's one of my top 5 favorite cards overall in the game. And he has a very situational value. He's basically a defensive card where he's going to swap places. Yes, it says a random enemy, but usually you're trying to use it to your advantage. But I love him, Tweak. I love his concept. But again, he's situational. He's not as good as some of these other cards. And for a common actual tank, Priest Maxi actually isn't half bad. If you can get him leveled up, he's actually very good for Team Wars and things like that. So, I mean, again, this theme has a plethora of great cards. I mean, there's really only maybe 2 or 3 cards realistically in this entire theme that shouldn't be played at all. And that's really about it. And that's what makes this theme so dang good, is that really there's only a few very minor weaknesses, and pretty much everybody else in it has value and is good and well enough to help you win some matches. But now that, again, we've talked about the best cards, let's look real quick at what I think the best themes are to pair with Mystical. Alright guys, so looking at this really quickly, in all honesty, for best theme to pair, I could literally just put 1s on all 4 of these. I mean, this theme pairs well with everything. There is really no true weakness of Mystical as far as what it can pair well with. But realistically, I think Sci-Fi is the best theme to pair with Mystical. I think the low, cheap energy cycle that you could potentially have with these 2 themes is just too darn good to pass up and to realistically say that it's not. Like, Sci-Fi's biggest negative is it doesn't have a direct cancel. Obviously, Mystical would give you that. Mystical also has a lot of potential to really help Sci-Fi be more efficient. And again, cheap cost cycle for both those themes, really, really good. I'm going to put superheroes number 2. Now, a lot of people might argue this, but I really think that it's one of my best pairings. I really do like superheroes and mystical. It's what made me make superheroes make it more fun. Because again, Pope Timmy's insane value of bringing back a unit, potentially even Call Girl again for that huge energy swing, is so good, and is what makes superheroes such a dangerous combination. And a lot of people see it on all phases of ladder of mystical superheroes. It's a really strong combination. I don't think adventure and fantasy really are so much weaker than these other ones. Like, don't take this list and say immediately like, okay, I'm never going to play fantasy and mystical. That's not what I'm saying with this. I'm just being realistic. I mean, I had to put adventure number 3 because everyone runs Dar, Ink, and Craig that runs adventure, and if you tell me you don't, I guess I'd have to believe you, but part of me doesn't believe you, because I mean it's an insane combination that's used a ton on high ladder, on 8K and above for elo. It's just it has insane value. I mean, it's good value, so it makes sense. Doesn't make it less annoying, but it's still there. That is definitely a thing. Fantasy, there's still potential there, and there's still a lot of good combinations that could come out of that as well. So it's just a ton of stuff. So I mean, again, I don't look at this list and immediately assume that, you know, again, don't use fantasy and mystical. I mean, Leanne with Dar is a really nice combination. There's a bunch of potential you could have with Pope Timmy again with fantasy, because some of the tanks that they have and things like that. There's potential there. Don't get me wrong, but I think with fantasy it's a little bit less powerful than some of the other ones. But some will argue with me in the comment section. That's fine. You let me know down below what you guys think. But again, mystical is great with every theme in this game. So just keep an open mind and try different decks out and see what you like best. Alright guys, we're going to look at some decks that I really like with mystical paired together. And the first one I'm going to do is one of my favorite decks right now to run in the game. Is it the best pairing of mystical and superheroes? Not necessarily, and a lot of this has to probably pair with the card levels, because my card levels are better than some people's. So that's one of the reasons why I do this. And there are some interchangeable pieces with this specific deck to go with it. I would always have, some people run this style of deck and have energy staff in there. I don't. I like Mintberry Crunch being in this deck. I like Fast Pass with his ability to chip New Kid and things like that. Call Girl and Pope Timmy are almost a must to have together. If you're really going to run superheroes on high ladder, you pretty much have to have that combination. Yes, it's douchey. Yes, people hate it. But the value's there. I mean, it's got to be done if you really want to be efficient. You could interchange some of these cards and potentially throw a Powerbind in there. That would be insanely helpful to superheroes to be able to deal with it. But realistically, the major weakness of superheroes is they're very easily destroyed by Satan. And Satan is run rampant in high tier ladder. So, I mean, superheroes is very easily cancelable in high tier ladder. It's not as easy to deal with in Silver and Bronze League, which is where it's plaguing the meta down there. But in Legendary Arena, you don't see as much superheroes for the main reason of, again, Satan is available, and Satan devastates superheroes very quickly. So I have to deal with that a lot when I play this deck, but most people won't. And so, again, card levels are going to matter here. There are other options of this, and there are a bunch of other different examples of people that run superheroes mystical. This isn't the only version. I know that a lot of people be like, well, Druzy, give us the other ones. I mean, I don't know them, but specifically off the top of my head of what I would interchange here. I would say that for whatever piece you take out, add the same type of piece back. So if you take out a fighter, I would say put a fighter back in. I think the must-haves for this deck to really work are primarily Mosquito Coon, Call Girl, and Pope Timmy, and Unholy Combustion. Those are must-haves. I would also say Professor Chaos is very high up there. Medusa Bebe is very good. Ninju, maybe most people don't have to a good level or don't have. Fast Pass Toolshed, maybe you don't have to good levels either. Or Mysterion, maybe you don't have to a good level. They're interchangeable. You can use, so if you don't want Mysterion, maybe put in Hermes Kenny or put in another assassin. That would be my suggestion, is that I think like the synergy of the types of cards work well for what I have here. But maybe the actual card itself, you might have a better version with higher levels of a different type. So that would be my suggestion. Or if you don't have Mintberry Crunch at all, you don't want another range card, which there are quite a few in this, or don't have Ninju, then maybe throw in Powerbind or a different spell or maybe even lava or something like that. There are other options here, but that's my suggestion for that. Here's another potential combination you could have, maybe even with sci-fi and mystical, that I've seen kind of different variations of. Again, as you can see, 3.7 energy cost, even though you have some high cost cards in it, with something like, you know, with Pope Timmy in there, you've got multiple 5 cost energy cards in there, but you can see the ridiculousness of the potential with this kind of cycle. And there are multiple different variations of even this style of deck. Maybe you don't have Scissor Stewart to a good enough level, or even have him at all, and you could take Scissor Stewart out. I mean, there's potentially, I'm not saying necessarily replace him with another fighter card. Maybe there is one you would like to have, but maybe something like Dar would be useful. I mean, you could, you know, bring back Zen Cartman, you could bring back Medusa Bebe, different things like that. Some will go with a more slower kind of version of this, where they'll have some of these cards, but they'll also maybe not have all these different, maybe they'll not have Space Warrior Token or Enforcer Jimmy. Instead, they'll have something like maybe Ninju and Energy Staff or something like that to have. It's a little bit higher cost, so you're going to need a little bit more of, you know, Energy Retain or things like that. Plus, Energy Staff can be good for a delay to kind of make it to where you get as many units as you can on your side of the field to then push at them, counter their push, and then also be able to continue to push forward. So there's a lot of different potential with this theme and with this kind of combination, but this is just one example that I would have for it. That one that I've kind of tried out. I have seen different iterations of this one as well, but it's a relatively high energy cost, but there's a double tank kind of focus with Man Bear Pig and Grand Wizard Cartman, which can be effective potentially in this meta. Obviously, you want to slow play it. Energy Staff is going to be your friend. Youth Pastor Craig will need to be used at the right time to kind of keep your tanks hopefully alive longer. And this deck isn't always going to work, but it can be fun sometimes. It is kind of an option. There are some other options with Fantasy and Mystical that are paired well together that don't include tanks or these specific tanks at all. They could also be good for you, but this is one that I have kind of at times been successful with. I do even have a video on this style of deck that I was somewhat effective with, but there's other iterations that really could work out. I know there's a lot of legendaries in here, so there's a lot of potential other options other than what I've got here on screen. And but I would say that if you're going to run Fantasy and Mystical together, DSR, if you have her, very good, very useful. And again, interchangeable things. You could use Slave instead of Grand Wizard Cartman if you don't have a good level on that. Instead of Man Bear Pig, you could just remove that tank altogether and potentially use something like maybe even, you know, a fighter card. You could use maybe Shield Maiden Wendy if you got her to a decent level. If you don't have that, you could maybe use Witch Garrison would be a decent option. I mean, there's other potential options here that you could use. And of course, Leanne pairs very well with DSR. If you want to run a DSR Leanne style deck, that can be extremely useful for this theme pairing, but this is just one that I think is kind of fun and has been useful. I've seen many people win with it, and I've been beaten by it a few times before. Is it the most efficient deck? Not necessarily. It can be countered fairly easily if you have the right cards to go against it. But I think it can be fun and can be kind of a deck that could work well with this theme. Again, because the amount of energy you get from Mystical potentially is just so good that you could potentially make this deck kind of work. Well, that's going to do it here, guys, today for the Mystical Theme Beginner's Guide for 2021. Yes, I know I didn't show an Adventure Mystical deck, but the best one there is just Dar and Incan and Pope Timmy, and that's really the honest truth. If you watch enough of my streams or watch any of my streams in the future, you'll definitely see that deck go against me many a times, and you'll definitely be able to see and build that deck if that's something you want to do. But until you get to Legendary Arena, you can't get Incan anyways. So I don't know really of any others at lower arenas that's really going to be super viable. But or you can check my adventure guide videos. I do have a DSR or a DAR deck with my adventure, and I have a few decks that actually work out decently well for that as well. But there we go, guys. Again, the Mystical Theme Beginner's Guide for 2021. Any suggestions you have for other video content or other guides you would like to see for this game, please let me know down below in the comment section. I will be doing the other themes relatively in the near future. I'm going to try to be better about doing it much more quickly. So Fantasy will be next, followed by Superheroes last to end this series. But I'll try to do it, at least, I hope to do Fantasy next week, and then maybe Superheroes either that week or the week after. We will see. I'm not going to make any promises right away, but I will be doing it sooner than the delay between Sci-Fi and Mystical. But thank you guys again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, guys, my name is Juicy.